evacuation. With that, I now recognize the ranking member.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do recall a meeting here in the Capitol, bipartisan, downstairs, and we were meeting with President Ghani of Afghanistan. And we had talked to some folks, and President Ghani was very vehement that he was not going to leave Afghanistan. He was vehement that the Afghan troops were there and he would stay there, to all these members of Congress. And to everyone that I talked to, from almost anywhere, was clear that that was his position. No one knew that 1 week later, not 1 month, 1 week later, he would get on a plane and get out and all the troops were gone. Everybody at that moment in time was surprised. And that's a fact. Let me ask some yes or no questions real quick, because I believe that you got to look at this whole thing you talk about. So, Mr. Secretary, President Trump's Doha deal explicitly committed to the United States to withdraw all U.S. and allied troops, as well as contractors, by May 2021. Yes or no?
That's correct.
But the speed of that withdrawal, outside of an initial reduction to 8,600 troops, was not specified by the deal. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And despite that, President Trump unilaterally reduced the U.S. presence twice beyond that, leaving just 2,500 troops when President Biden took office. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So, and we've seen that President Trump was prepared to go to zero. In fact, Ambassador Khalilzad testified to the committee that the messages coming out of the Trump White House led the Taliban to conclude that Trump was getting out regardless of what was agreed in the Doha deal. So let's be clear about the conditions. If we're going to be factual about this, you've got to consider the conditions that Trump handed over to you in the Biden administration. A firm commitment for a total withdrawal with no allowance for a residual force or contractors, a limited number of troops on the ground, and no real prohibition or attacks on our Afghan allies. We've heard testimony from General Milley, Ambassador Khalilzad, and others that if we had tried to reopen the Doha deal, the Taliban would have resumed attacks against us. Do you agree, Mr. Secretary, with that assessment? Yes or no?
I do.
So that was the fundamental choice facing President Biden, to complete the withdrawal that was initiated by President Trump, or re-escalate the conflict. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So what do you think President Biden's decision to complete the withdrawal and end this so-called forever war gained us?
It gained us an end to America's longest war. It gained us not having another generation of Americans going off to fight and die in Afghanistan. It gained us the opportunity to refocus and rededicate our resources to the challenges of this moment, from the Russian aggression against Ukraine, to the many challenges posed by China, to many other issues around the world where we were able to free up resources, free up focus, free up time.
You just hit something, because just months after the withdrawal from Afghanistan, we did face a new threat, and that was Putin's illegal and unjustified renewed invasion of Ukraine in February of 2022. So yes or no, do you see any connection between Putin's re-invasion of Ukraine and the United States withdrawal from Afghanistan?
No. On the contrary. I think our adversaries, including Russia, would have been delighted if we had doubled down and remained stuck in Afghanistan for another 20 years. Now, in 2008, we had, between Afghanistan and Iraq, about 200,000 forces deployed. You'll recall what else happened in 2008. Russia invaded Georgia. In 2014, we still had about 12,000 forces in Afghanistan. You'll recall what else happened in 2014. Russia, for the first time, invaded Ukraine. Because we were able to refocus our time, our resources, our efforts, we were able to build this coalition of more than 50 countries that has stood up to Russia's aggression. And I must say, the chairman has done a remarkable job over these last 3 years.
I agree. We work very closely,
in that coalition.
the chairman and I, in making sure Ukraine has everything that it needs. In fact, sometimes he was in front of me, and other times we went together, but he has been a champion on Ukraine. But the issue that I'm trying to make sure, and I think this is what you said, that the withdrawal from Afghanistan did not hinder our capacity or our credibility to lead our allies in a robust response to the invasion in Ukraine. That's correct?
That is correct.
As well as that withdrawal did not inhibit our relationships with our allies.
That is correct.
In fact, just the opposite. It may be my last question, your assessment of the strength of NATO and our alliances system today. Has the withdrawing from Afghanistan let us focus on the most urgent threats to global security? Yes or no?
NATO is stronger, it's bigger, it's better resourced, it's more focused than it's ever been.
Gentleman's time has expired. Let me just say, with the fall of Afghanistan,